Hey everyone, this is Anthony Weinkoff with Embrace Tutoring and Educational Services, and in this video we'll be covering SAT Math, the PSAT 2020 test. Please remember these videos provide additional explanations and content review, but you'll always want to attempt the problems independently. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube page and ask questions along the way. Okay, so let's get started. Now, before we begin, we want to really understand how to best approach and tackle the SAT math problems, essentially how to think about them. One major tip that we will tell you is that everything is there for a reason or for a purpose, so your overall goal is to always figure out how to utilize the given information. So the three-step process that we're going to use in order to break this down is step one, you always want to be able to read the problem and identify the type of concept being assessed, whether it's circles, ratios, linear expressions, exponents, etc. You then want to be able to evaluate what is given in the problem and think how you can utilize the given information to answer the problem. And then finally, you always want to be able to solve the problem by connecting the given information to the necessary math computations, such as formulas, equations, inequalities, etc. But always remember, everything is there for a reason, and you're going to want to do your best in order to connect what they're asking you to solve for to what is being provided or what is given. Okay, moving into section 4 for the calculator section. Problem number 1 states, a high school counselor conducted a study over 16 consecutive quarters to determine the number of students with part-time jobs. Each student in the 2014 graduating class is surveyed once per quarter for all 4 years of high school. The graph below shows the data for each quarter the survey was conducted. I see for my x-axis, I see quarters, and for my y, I see number of students. It says, during which of the following periods is the increase in the number of students with part-time jobs going to be the largest? Now, whenever they're referring to what is the largest increase, really what they're saying is what is the steepest upward slope on the graph. And looking here on my x-axis, I see between the quarters of, it seems between 6 and I would say 11, probably even a little bit steeper, somewhere between 7 and probably 10. And that's what I want to pay attention to on the graph. So I think it's probably going to end up occurring, and looking down at my answer choices, it's going to probably occur between 7 and 10 looking here. So B would be my best possible answer choice for question number 1. Problem number 2 states, Eli saves money each month to buy a new computer. The total amount he has saved, T, can be calculated by the equation T equals 83 plus 30M, where M is the number of months since he started saving. What does the number 83 represent in the equation? Hopefully you recall that this T equals 83 plus 30M is a standard form of Y equals MX plus B, which you're going to have your slope for your MX, which in this case is going to be your 30M, and your B is going to be your starting value or your Y-intercept when X equals 0, which in this case is going to represent 83. So hopefully you can tell that immediately A is most likely going to be your best answer choice because that's what you're starting with. But let's break it down a little bit further. If we make M equal to 0, understanding that the 30 is going to be a rate, and if I were to plug this in, then what you'll see is that this becomes T equals 83 plus 30 times 0. The 30 times 0 becomes 0, and the T equals the 83. So one master tip is that the Y here will always have the same units as your B of your starting amount. In this case, T will therefore have the same units as 83. So one other way of looking at this, if you had to do process elimination, is just identifying what the units are going to be. Now, because of the fact, once again, that the y-intercept B here, which is 83, is going to be your starting value. This is going to be the amount of money that Eli started with. So A is your best possible answer choice for question number 2. Problem number 3 states, according to the Department of Agriculture, consuming 100 grams of banana provides 0.15 milligrams of zinc. Which of the following is closest to the number of milligrams of zinc provided by 140 grams of banana? Hopefully you can quickly notice that they're providing 100 grams of banana equals 0.15 milligrams of zinc. And this is a standard unit conversion problem. What they're asking you to do is to take 140 grams of banana and figure out how many grams of zinc is going to be provided in this sample, knowing that your unit conversion here. So what you want to do is you want to take your 140 grams of banana, and I want to make sure my denominator of my unit conversion is going to end up canceling out. So this is grams of banana, and then therefore the 100 grams of banana is going to go in my denominator of my unit conversion. My numerator is going to be my desired value or the top value. So here I have 0.15 milligrams of zinc. You'll notice that the grams of banana will cancel, and now you're going to be left in milligrams of zinc, which is going to equal 0.21 milligrams of zinc overall, making B my best possible answer choice for question number 3. Problem number 4 states, when the equation y equals 5x plus b, where p is a constant, is graphed in the xy plane. The line passes through point -2 and 1. What is the value of p? Now, whenever they're giving you coordinates, you always want to refer to slope-intercept form, and they're actually giving you the line as well. So slope here equals y equals mx plus b, but they're giving it to you in the equation of y equals 5x plus p. I now want to take these coordinates and I want to plug in. So plug in -2 and 1, and when I do this, I will then have a singular p. So I'll get y equals 5 times -2. You'll notice here that the -2 represents your x, right, for the 5x, and the 1 here represents your y value, which is why it's coming here. So it becomes y equals 5 times -2 plus p, which becomes y equals -10 plus p. I'm going to add 10 to both sides, and I get 11 equals p, making D the best answer choice for question number 4. Problem number 5 refers to questions 5 and 6 refer to the following information. I'm going to skip this information till I have a better understanding of what the question is asking. It says, which of the following statements about the relationship between the number of times a bat and the number of hits is true? Now, given the fact that I'm looking for something that's pretty obvious, I'm going to skim my answer choices here just to help me better understand what I should be looking for. As the number of times a bat increases, the number of hits decreases. As the number of times a bat increases, the number of hits increases, right? And so on. So what they're asking me is, what is the relationship or the correlation between my x-axis and my y-axis? I see here that there is a line of best fit, and that as the number of times a bat increases, I am therefore hitting kind of number of hits. So these correlate, given the fact that this is a positive slope. It seems as though, therefore, B is then going to be my best answer, because it's the number of times at bats increases, the number of hits will also increase. More times at bats is going to refer to more hits, making B the best answer choice for question number 5. Problem number 6 states, for the player with 450 times at bat, the actual number of hits the player had is approximately how many fewer than the number of hits predicted by the line of best fit? Looking here at my x-axis as well as my y-axis, I'm going to go to 450 for my x for a number of times at bat, and I see that the number of times he looks like he hit is somewhere between 115 and 120, but the number of times that he should have hit, according to the line of best fit, is right around, I would say, 125, because we're interpreting this graph to say that it's predicting for the line of best fit to be 125. That's what would generally fall on the line, somewhere around like 125 or 126. But they're referring to this dot here because he hit fewer than what was expected. And this dot is going to fall somewhere between 115 and 120, making the difference approximately to be somewhere between, I would say, 7 to 10, and making A going to be their best answer for problem number 6. Problem number 7 states, an advertisement states that the printing rate of a certain printer is 400 characters per second. According to the convention that one word consists of 5 characters, what would be the advertised printing rate in words per minute? The moment that they're giving you units here, and the moment they start providing you unit conversions of one word equals 5 characters, you should immediately recognize this is going to be a standard unit conversion problem. So let's quickly identify what is given, which is 400 characters per second, and then what they're asking for, which is words per minute. I want to always try to line up my units so that way they cancel appropriately, and this is going to be my standard unit conversion or dimensional analysis kind of equation. I have 400 characters over seconds. Notice I just simply brought this down. My 60 seconds over 1 minute will come from the fact that I want to cancel out seconds. So I'm transferring this now to characters to seconds to characters to minutes when I cancel off my seconds. Likewise, I'm going to follow the same thought process where I want to go from characters to words. So I'm purposely going to put characters here on the bottom based upon the unit conversion that they gave me previously. So my words will go on the top and the characters will go on the bottom, so that way I can cancel my characters to characters. Now I'm in words per minute, which is good because that's exactly what I'm looking for. So when I do the multiplication for 400 times 60 times 1 divided by 1 times 5, I will get 4,800 words per minute, making this my best answer choice and B, the answer to number 7. Problem number 8 states, the table above shows the yearly salary in dollars of an employee at a company. Which of the following best describes the type of model that fits the data in the table? What you can quickly see based on the answer choices is that whenever they're referring to types of models, they're usually referring to linear, which is like y equals mx plus b, or exponential, which is usually increasing by some sort of percentage each year. And when I want to look for the differences in the data, I simply just want to understand that if this is going to be linear, it's going to be the same. It's going to be constant. So I'm going to take the differences. I'm going to do 39,140 minus 38,000, which is going to be 1,140. Meaning that if this is indeed linear, this should be the same difference between from 0 to 1 and then from 1 to 2. When I do this again, I get 40,314 minus 39,140, which will give me 1,174, meaning that these therefore will not be linear. And if they're not linear, I can cross off A and B. Now, on the contrary, when I want to examine what is exponential, I want to understand the difference between for 3% and 9% each year. So when I test my exponential differences, I'm going to take 38,000 times 1.03. Notice this is a 100% of the 38,000 and a 3% increase because it says increasing by approximately 3% each year. And I indeed do get 39,140. So when I go from year 0, here from 38,000, if I multiply this by 3% increase, which is my 1.03, I then get 39,140. If I do this exact same, multiplying again this 39,140 by 1.03, which is another 3% increase, I do get 40,314. And if I bet you if I were to do it again to test it, I would end up getting what I expect to get in year 3 for 41,524, making this to be my best model, meaning that C is going to be my answer choice for question number 8. Problem number 9 states, which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? Noticing here that I have a generic kind of algebraic expression, but I do have a negative here and all of my answer choices are in simplified form. That's exactly what I'm going to want to do is attempt to simplify. I definitely want to pay attention to the negative on the outside because when I carry this negative through to each of the variables that are inside of here, I'm going to end up getting a positive x squared y when I do negative to a negative. And then when I do negative to a positive here, I'm going to get minus 3xy squared. And then when a negative to another negative, I'm going to get a positive 3y squared. Immediately, you'll notice that my 3y squareds will cancel. I have a minus 3y squared, and here I have a positive 3y squared. My 5xy squared and my negative 3xy squareds are going to come together like terms, and my x squared y and my x squared y are also going to come together. When these all simplify, I'm going to get 2x squared y plus 2xy squared, making A my best answer choice for question number 9. Problem number 10 states, which of the following describes the solution to the equation above? I see A equals x equals 0, B equals x equals 10 1/2. The equation has infinitely many solutions. The equation has no solutions. Because C and D are options, what I want to attempt to do is take my expression here to solve for types of solutions, meaning that if I were to distribute my 7 to my 1/2 x and then minus 7, I would end up getting 7 over 2x minus 49. Now, I kind of like this, and here's the reason why. Because initially I had a 4x minus 1/2 x. Well, if I take my 4x and if I make the 4 over 1 have the same common denominator for the 2 and the 2, I then get 8x over 2 minus 1x over 2. Now, the reason I like this is because I now, on both sides, have a 7 over 2 times x, right? 7 over 2 times x. And by keeping the 7 over 2x equivalent to the 7 over 2x, meaning that negative 7 and negative 49 will not be equal, that means that there is not a solution to this answer, making D the best answer to question number 10. Problem number 11 states, the table below shows the monthly electricity bills of Joseph and Samuel for the first 5 months of a year. Here I have months: Joseph, Samuel, January, February, March, April, May. Based on the information in the table, which of these statements is true about the ranges and medians of the bills? Now, whenever we have a basic statistics problem, what you want to pay attention to is really what is the median as well as what is the range in this case. Now, the median is the middle value of the data set when the values are in numerical order. So I'm going to want to put these in numerical order and then figure out what is the middle number between these 5 numbers. And then the range is going to be my highest minus my lowest value. Probably the easiest way to do this first is what is going to be the range. Now, Joseph's range is going to be 193.12 minus 145.30. I find my highest value, which is 193.12, and I subtract it from the lowest value, which is 145.30, meaning that his range between the highest minus the lowest is going to be $47.82. On the other hand, Samuel's range is going to be, his highest value is 188.19 or 0.99 minus 149.30. $149.23. So his range is going to be $39.76. And this means that the ranges will not be equivalent and Joseph's range will be higher. Now, when calculating median, what you want to do is count to the third highest value because it's a 5-value data set. So I want to count to the middle number. So here I have 145, then I have 175.99, and then here I have $180.33. So this looks to be the median for Joseph. For Samuel, I want to once again count to the third highest value. I have 149.23. I then have 176.35. I then have 181.27. So this is the median of Samuel. Now, Samuel has a higher median. However, Joseph has a higher range. So I want to find an answer choice that reflects that. And it does seem as though the range of Joseph's bills is greater than the range of Samuel's bills, while the median of Joseph's bills is less than the median of Samuel's bills, which is true, making D the best answer for question number 11. Problem number 12 states, the table above presents information about 810 train cars in service on a railroad. Approximately what percentage of the train cars in service are double-decker cars that have been in service for less than 10 years? When I'm attempting to figure out what the percentage is, I want to first figure out what the numerator and the denominator. It does say approximately what percentage of the train cars in service. I see that both of these are referring to in service, so my grand total is going to be 810. And now, to figure out my numerator, or what out of, it does say are double-decker cars that have been in service for less than 10 years. So this is what I want to focus on. So double-decker cars in service for less than 10 years is going to be 16, and I'm getting this here. So double-decker cars specifically in service less than 10 years, here is going to be 16. So 16 over 810 times 100, notice I'm purposely multiplying this by 100, so that way I can convert it to a percentage, is going to be 2%, making A the best answer for question number 12. Problem number 13, a moving company uses plastic wrap to bundle groups of boxes together. If a portion of plastic wrap that measures 900 inches in length is used to bundle each group of boxes, how many groups of boxes can be bundled using 1,500 feet of the same type of plastic wrap? Now, this is a standard unit conversion problem, so let's identify what unit conversions we have. We have 900 inches is going to be used to bundle one group of boxes, and we will need to know the unit conversion of inches to feet. That's generally standard, and the SAT will expect you to be able to memorize that for inches to feet. But let's talk a little bit more. Why are we putting the feet down here on the bottom? And the reason is because we're converting 1,500 feet here initially to inches. And I'm then converting inches purposely to bundles of those groups of boxes. So how many bundles of the groups could we do? Now, I'm going to immediately remove my feet by doing feet times inches over feet. My feet will cancel. I'm now in inches and multiplying inches by inches. And noticing here, we're putting the bundles again on top. The inches will cancel. And now we are in 1,500 times 12 times 1 divided by 900, which will give you 20 bundles altogether, making B your best answer choice for question number 13. Problem number 14 states, the table below shows the number of calories in a cheeseburger at 6 different restaurants. What is the difference in the number of calories in a cheeseburger at the Riverside Diner and the median number of calories in cheeseburgers at all 6 restaurants? Once again, referring to basic statistics, whenever they're referring to median, they're referring to the middle value of the data set when the values are in numerical order. Something important to note is that here we're at 6 different restaurants, and whenever you have an even number of values within the data set, you then have to take the middle value of the 2 middle numbers, meaning you basically have to add them together and then divide by 2. So when given an even data set, take the middle value of the 2 middle numbers by adding them together and then dividing by 2. Now the question is, where do we get 900 and 810 from? What you want to do, remember, is line these up in numerical order. So this should be between the third and the fourth value of the data set. It looks here that 700 is your lowest value, then 740, then 810, there's my third value, then 900, there's my fourth value. So here's my third and fourth values added together, divided is going to give me 855. However, we're not quite finished yet because it says what is the difference in the number of calories in the cheeseburger at the Riverside Diner and the median number of calories. 855 is the median number of calories overall, but we need to take the difference between that and the Riverside Diner. The Riverside Diner is 1,120, and our median of the full data set is 855. By subtracting both of these, it's therefore going to give you 265, making C your best answer to number 14. Problem number 15 states a circle is graphed in the xy plane. If the circle has a radius of 3 and the center of the circle is at 4, -2, which of the following could be an equation of the circle? Hopefully you remember by other videos that whenever referring to an equation of a circle, we're referring to this expression, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, and hopefully you recall that the h and the k here are representative of what is the center of the circle. The r is going to stand for the radius. Now, the 4 and the -2 are what they give you. So if I take my 4 here and if I plug it in for h, and if I take my -2 and if I plug it in for k, then what I'm going to end up getting is x minus 4 squared plus y plus 2 squared. Notice the -2, it's a negative of a negative, becomes a positive 2. And then I plug in my radius being 3 that they already give me in my problem. I then simplify this further and I get x minus 4 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 9, making C my best answer to this question for number 15. Problem number 16 is referring to a large narrative as well as a table, so on purpose go to skim down my question to save some time. If a 9th grade student at the high school is chosen at random, which of the following is closest to the probability that the student will have a GPA of 3.0 or greater? Now, when referring to probability, always remember that probabilities get equal the number of desired outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. And when doing this problem, our desired outcomes are 9th grade students with a 3.0 GPA or greater, and the number of overall possible outcomes is going to be the total amount of 9th grade students, right? If a 9th grade student at the high school, so that's what they're referring to. If the entire 9th grade class is chosen at random, what is the probability that one of those 9th grade students will have a 3.0 GPA or greater? When we plug this in, we have 61 plus 95 over 327. The 61 and the 95 are the 3.0 GPA or greater. I now plug this in over a total of 327 students, which is the summary, right? A summary of the year-end grade point averages for the 327 9th grade students overall. And then I get 156 divided by 327, making my probability equal to 0.48. And B is my best answer for question number 16. Problem number 17 states, what is the difference to the nearest whole percent between the percentage of students enrolled in Propel who had a GPA of 3.0 or greater and the percentage of students not enrolled in Propel who had a GPA of 3.0 or greater? So really what we want to figure out is what are the differences of the students enrolled in Propel versus students not enrolled in Propel with the 3.0 GPA or greater. The overall percentage for the students enrolled in Propel, the overall is going to be the total. So 61 plus 48 should be my denominator. These are the total amount of students enrolled in Propel. The students with a 3.0 GPA or greater is going to be 61. So this should be 61 over 61 plus 48. The times 100 is to convert this to a percentage. So 61 over 61 plus 48 times 100 will give me 55.9%. Now, moving on to the students not enrolled in Propel, this is going to be 95 over 95 plus 123, similar to what we just did, and then multiplying by 100 in order to convert this to a percentage. And I have 95 over 95 plus 123 times 100 equals 43.5%. But remember, it says the question is asking us what is the difference between these two things. So I have to take 55.9% minus 43.5%, which will give me a total of 12.4%. So 12.4% should be my answer because here it says what is the difference to the nearest whole percent. So I'm going to have to round this down to make this like a full number, being 12, making D my best answer choice for question number 17. Problem number 18 states, of the students enrolled in the Propel program, the ratio of boys to girls is approximately 2 to 3. Which of the following is the best estimate of the number of girls enrolled in the program? Now, understanding the terminology of ratios, where it says boys to girls, that represents the fact that the boys are going to be the 2 and the girls are therefore going to be the 3. Understanding that the total amount of students is going to be, let's see here, skimming, it says 109 of those students were randomly assigned to enroll in the Propel program. It means the total number of students in the Propel program is 109. You'll notice here this says 5 parts, and that's because the total amount of parts for 2 to 3 is going to be 5 parts total, meaning that if I were to break this 109 down into individual parts, 109 divided by 5, I can then figure out approximately how many students there were per part. And 21.8 multiplied by 2 is what is going to give me the boys, and then 21.8 multiplied by 3 is what's going to give me the girls. So 2 times 21.8 and 3 times 21.8 will give me 43.6 to 65.4. Notice the question is asking which of the following is the best estimate to the number of girls. So this is going to be the 65 number, making B my best answer for question number 18. Problem number 19 states an artist is creating a sculpture using bendable metal rods of equal length. One rod is formed in the shape of a square and another rod into the shape of an equilateral triangle. If each side of the triangle is 2 inches longer than each side of the square, how long in inches is each rod? One key component of this question is what is the square and what is an equilateral triangle and what do they mean? Well, a square means that you will have 4 sides of equal length. So here I have x, 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 and x, all representing in the 4 sides of the square. An equilateral triangle is representing that you have 3 sides of a triangle all of equal length. Now this says x plus 2, and the reason is it says each side of the triangle is 2 inches longer than each side of the square. But one thing to note is that the 4 sides of the square here are equivalent to each of the 3 sides of the triangle, given the fact that you're using the same amount. One rod is formed into the shape of a square and another rod of equal length. So here I have 4x is going to be equivalent to my 3 sides of the triangle, which is 3 times x plus 2. When I simplify this, I get 4x equals 3x plus 6. I'm now going to subtract my 3x to both sides. I get x equals 6, but I'm not quite done yet because it says how long in inches is each rod. So what I want to do is I want to plug it into either my 4x or my x plus 2. And what hopefully you should see rather quickly is that the 3x plus 6, plugging in my x here, I will get 3 times 6 plus 6 equals 24, which also works if I were to plug it in here for my squares. For my square, for 4 times x equals 24, so 24 will be my answer, making C the answer to number 19. Problem number 20 states, rational functions defined above, which of the following is an equivalent form that displays values not included in the domain as constants or coefficients? Skimming my answer choices, it appears as though my numerator as well as my denominator have found common factors and I've simplified. So what I want to do is I want to take my initial expression and I want to set it up to factor. Now, when I'm factoring this, the goal is to find common multiples so I can cancel out my numerator as well as my denominator, really just find common factors. So here I have 2x minus 4. A common factor or a common multiple that can go into this is going to be 2. So I'm going to take my 2 out of this expression and then becomes 2 times x minus 2. Now using my denominator or my bottom expression, because this can't be factored any further from my numerator, I'm going to have 2x squared plus 2x minus 4. I'm now also going to continue to take out a 2. And I have 2 times x squared plus x minus 2. My x squared plus x minus 2 can continue to be factored further. So which two values when multiplied together will give me a negative 2, but when added together will give me a positive 1. That will be a positive 2 as well as a negative 1. And my overall expression should be 2 on the times x minus 2 in my numerator. And then on the bottom, I should have 2 times x plus 2 multiplied by x minus 1 in my denominator. Now, I noticed the 2's could essentially cancel. However, inside of my answer choices, B is going to be my best answer because this is how it's written. So B will be the answer to number 20. For problem 21, it states, a landscaper is designing a rectangular fountain with a 4-foot wide path around it. The equation A equals 4p plus 64 will relate the area A in square feet of the path to the perimeter P in feet of the fountain. In the design, how many feet will the perimeter of the fountain increase for each additional square foot of the path's area? Now, there are multiple ways of doing this problem, but I think theoretically the best way to do this is actually really just to test the numbers. So what I'm first going to do is solve for p. Here I have a equals 4p plus 64. I'm going to bring my 64 over to the other side, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So here I have a minus 4. A minus 64 over 4 will give me p. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose two values when I'm testing the numbers for a. By choosing two values, it says how many feet will the perimeter of the foot increase for each additional square foot of the path's area. Now I'm going to choose two values for a, and purposely I'm going to choose two positive values when I subtract this out. So I'm probably going to choose 65 and 66, right, for each additional foot. And when I plug these in, I have 65 minus 64 over 4, which will then give me 1/4 equals p. I want to figure out what happens to p when I now do a equals 66. Because notice I'm doing an incremental one additional square footage of area. So when I plug this in, I have 66 minus 64, which will give me 2 over 4, right? 66 minus 64 over 4, it gives me 2 over 4, which is 1/2 equals P. And I want to see what is the difference here. And it appears as though it's just going to be 1/4, right? So when I take the difference, it's going to be 2 over 4 minus 1/4 equals 1/4. And that is going to be representative of the change. So B is going to be my best answer to number 21. Problem number 22 states, in the xy plane, the graph of the function q is a parabola. The graph intersects the x-axis at -1, 0 and r0. If the vertex of q occurs at the point 2, 4, what is the value of r? Whenever they're giving you a parabola, it's always going to be referring to the vertex form in quadratics, whether they state that or not. So you want to think of these kind of interchangeably. And your vertex form is y equals a multiplied by x minus h squared plus k. And always remember the h and the k is representative of the vertex. It could be your minimum or as well as your maximum, depending on which way the vertex is opening or the parabola is opening. Now they do tell you 2, 4 because it says if the vertex of q occurs at this point. And when I plug in my coordinates, I then get 0 equals a times -1 minus 2 squared plus 4. Notice the 2 is representative of my h, and the k is representative of my 4 that I'm getting here from my vertex form. The 0 and the -1 are coming from my other point, because it says the graph intersects the x-axis at -0 and 1. So I'm plugging in y equals 0, and I'm plugging in x here, as represented by my vertex form, as -1. The reason I'm doing this is I can now solve for a. And when I'm plugging in these coordinates, and if I'm solving for a, I can then plug that back in to solve for the other coordinate to figure out what theoretically r should equal. So we get 0 equals a times -3 squared plus 4, which becomes 0 equals 9a plus 4. I then get -4 equals 9a. I divide both sides by 9, and I get -4 over 9 equals a. Now I'm going to plug this a back in as well as with my other coordinate in order to solve for r. So I get 0 equals -4/9 times r minus 2 squared plus 4. Notice what I had to do. My 0 is still the y coordinate. My -4/9 is going to be what my a is representative of according to my vertex form that you see here. And the r here now becomes my x value, or my x coordinate, which is what is also provided within your vertex form. The -2 is still going to be, or the 2 is still going to be the vertex, and the 4 is still going to be the k, right? Given the fact that this is h and this is k. What I want to do now is bring this +4 over to the other side to make this a -4. And I have -4 equals -4/9 times r minus 2 squared. I'm now going to multiply purposely by the reciprocal, and I have -9/4 on both sides. These, you'll notice that the -4 and the -4 will cancel, just giving me a +9. And on the other side, I will remove my -4/9 by multiplying by -9/4. And when I do this, it makes it a little bit easier, so that way I'm just isolating for r. Now, as I move forward, I have 9 equals r minus 2 squared. I'm going to take the square root of both sides in order to remove my exponent. And when I do this, I have 3 equals r minus 2. I'm going to bring the 2 over to the other side in order to make it a +2. And I have 3 plus 2 gives me 5. And my -2 plus my +2 will cancel. And I have 5 equals r overall, making D the best answer to question number 22. Problem 23 states, liquid going through a cooling system is chilled so that its temperature decreases at a constant rate from 100 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius in 5 seconds. Which of the following functions represents the temperature C in degrees Celsius as a function of the time t in seconds after chilling began? Remember, we're looking here for which of the following functions represents the temperature C, so C equals. Now, we do notice that it's a constant rate, so this is a linear expression, and we are starting with 100, and we are going down to 25 degrees, so the difference here is going to be 75. 100 minus 25 is giving me 75, but this is over the course of 5 seconds, not 1 second. So what I want to do is I want to take 75 degrees Celsius over the course of what the total change is, divided by 5 seconds, and this will give me the temperature change per second. So this will change 15 degrees per 1 second, which is where you see these +15s, -15s, +15s, -15s. Now, the last remaining bit is, what does it start at, right? So here I have 100, which is where it's starting, and then it's going down or decreasing 15 degrees per second, and the t here is representing the second. So these units would actually end up canceling because the seconds here is in my denominator. So the seconds with here would cancel with the seconds inside of the t, which makes sense, making D your best possible answer for question number 23. Problem 24 states the formula for the volume of a sphere with radius r is shown above. The radius of the planet Jupiter is about 11 times the radius of planet Earth. Assuming the planets are spheres, about how many times larger is the volume of Jupiter than the volume of Earth? Now, it does say how many times larger, meaning that what we're going to need to do is understand Earth as well as Jupiter. We're going to take both of our equations here, but notice that the radius here is a 1. So this is 1r to the third power, or the third exponent. But this becomes an 11r. And the reason why this is 11 is because it's 11 times the radius of Earth. So this number here has to be 11 times what Earth would be. Now the hardest part probably about this question is just understanding what to do with the exponent. The 11 here becomes 11 to the third power. And the r also becomes r to the third power. And when you do this, notice that here the volume of Earth is going to remain the same, kind of as a sense of comparison, but the volume of Jupiter is going to become 1,331 r to the third. That's because this is 11 times 11, which is 121, and then 121 times 11, which is 1,331. Notice everything else remains the same, the 4 over 3, the pi, the r to the 3 power, the 4 over 3, the pi, the r to the 3 power. So really the only difference here is that Jupiter is 1,331 times larger than Earth, making C your best possible answer for question number 24. Problem 25 states the population of squirrels in a park has been doubling every 15 years. Which of the following statements describes the type of function that best models the relationship between the population of squirrels in the park and the number of 15-year time periods? Now, number of 15-year time periods is something important to note because this isn't exactly year 1 or year 2. This is actually referring to just kind of the first time they take the sample, the second time they take the sample. So this is actually 15 years, 30 years, 45 years, etc. Now, on the population side, we want to be aware of if this is going to be exponential growth or if this is going to be linear growth. Linear growth is usually represented by the same constant rate, like a y equals mx plus b or a straight line. Exponential growth is going to be usually an increase in percentage of some sort, and it's generally going to be a steep slope, like a steep rising slope. Now, as I'm plotting these points for the first instance, second instance, third instance, fourth instance, and 5th instance, and then my population, on the other hand, will start just with a generic population of 100, just to sort of test this out. And then this is going to double to be 200 because notice every 15 years, the population is going to double completely, which is probably going to be leaning more towards the percentage. And then in the third instance, it's going to be 400. So notice during the year 1, 100, year 2, 200, year 3, 400, year 4, or 4th instance is 800, and finally the 5th time they take the test is going to be 1600. Now, as I plot these points, you can see that this is not necessarily a straight line. This is going to be instead a steep rising slope. I didn't even plot the last point, which would be all the way up here. Now, what you can tell is that because of the fact that this is a steep rising hill, most likely this is going to be leaning more towards exponential, and B, exponential growth because the population of squirrels is increasing by the same percentage each 15-year time period is going to be your correct answer for number 25. Problem 26 states, if function f is defined by f of x equals 3x squared minus 5x plus 4, what is f of x minus 4? What I want to understand when I'm doing this problem is that I simply want to take the function that they currently give me, which is f of x equals 3x squared minus 5x plus 4, and instead I want to plug in my x minus 4 here. Remember that whenever you're doing a functions and substitutions, if I plug in x minus 4 here, I then therefore have to plug them in to wherever else I have an x, right? Whatever my input is. So here I have f of x equals 3 times x minus 4 squared minus 5 times x minus 4. Notice replacing my x and replacing my x squared. And I just bring my positive 4 down. What I'm going to do now is distribute my minus 5 to get me minus 5x plus 20, because negative 5 times negative 4 will give me a positive 20. I'm now going to FOIL, and I will get 3 times x squared minus 8x plus 16, right? X times x will give me x squared. my -4 times my -4 will give me a positive 16, and combining my like terms, because they're both negative, is going to give me -8x. I'm now going to distribute my 3 to 3x squared minus 3 times -8 and 3 times positive 16. When I do this, I get 3x squared minus 24x plus 48 minus 5x plus 24. I'm going to begin to combine my like terms. And when I combine my like terms, I end up getting 3x squared minus 29x plus 72. And I think now, looking back at my answer choices and using them as a guide, yes, D is going to be my best answer choice for problem 26 that matches what I was able to derive and simplify. Problem 27 states, the equations of two lines are shown above. If the lines are graphed in the xy plane, which of the following ordered pairs represents the point at which the lines would intersect? Now, quick note, solution is a coordinate where the lines would actually intersect. So the x's and the y's would be the same for both. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a coordinate or a place where the x's will be equivalent and the y's will be equivalent. Given the type of equations that I have for x equals 1/3 y and 154 minus 4y equals 10x, I generally either want to do the substitution or elimination method. Because of the fact that I already have an x set up here, I'm probably going to first solve for y, so that way I can plug this in using a substitution method. So I'm going to do 3x equals y. I'm now going to plug that y in here, right, for my -4 following the substitution method. And I have 154 minus 4 times 3x, notice that's where the 3x is coming from, equals 10x. And now I'm going to distribute, right, my -4 times my 3x will give me -12x. I have 154 minus 12x equals 10x. I'm going to bring a positive 12x over to both sides. And I have 154 equals 22x. Dividing by 22 on both sides will give me 7 equals x. And I'm not quite done, although I'm already leaning towards D because D has an x coordinate. I can now plug in order to verify and check for y. And I have 7 equals 1/3 y. Notice I just plugged it back into one of my initial expressions. And when I multiply this or cross multiply this, I will end up getting 21 equals y, which does work. Because y equals 21 and 7 equals x, D is going to be my best answer to problem number 27. Problem number 28, I see a table here with a number of values. So what I want to do is skim down and read the narrative to see what question they're asking me. It says, a grocer carries 2 types of frozen meals that have the fat and carbohydrate content shown in the table above. John wants to purchase a combination of the 2 types of meals with no more than 350 grams of fat and no more than 2,975 grams of carbohydrates. Immediately, because I see no more than, or at least, or things of that nature, that type of language, immediately I'm thinking of inequalities. Now it says if John purchases 10 chicken meals, what is the greatest number of stir-fry meals he can purchase so that the combination will satisfy the requirements? So what I'm looking for really is S. So what I'm going to do when I'm creating my systems of inequalities is I'm going to create 2 different types of equations. So here I have 4s plus 5c is less than or equal to 350 fat. Now the reason I'm doing this is because this is 4 grams of fat per stir-fry meal. That's what the S is representing. The C is representing a number of chicken meals, and I have 5 grams of fat per chicken meal. And this says no more than 350 grams of fat combined. So 4S plus 5C cannot exceed 350 grams of fat total. Likewise, I have to understand how to break down my other equation. Here I have 40S, which is 40 grams of carbohydrates per stir-fry meal. And here I have 35C, which is 35 grams of carbohydrates per chicken meal, which have to be less than or equal to 2,975 carbs, because it says, once again, no more than 2,975 grams of carbohydrates. I now want to look back at the problem to see what else they give me, and it says if John purchases 10 chicken meals, so I want to plug in 10 for each of these values. And when I do plug in my 10 chicken meals, I have 4s plus 5 times 10 is less than or equal to 350 grams of fat. I now have 4s plus 50, right? 5 times 10 is 50, is less than or equal to 350 grams of fat. I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides. I'm now going to divide by 4 on both sides, and I have S is less than or equal to 75. Now remember, this is referring to the amount of meals. I need to do this again, and I need to check if what this is going to equal in this instance, and if how many meals, whichever one is going to be lower, right? And that's going to be my correct amount. Here I have 40s plus 35 times 10 is 350 is less than or equal to 2,975. I'm going to subtract 350 from both sides, and I get 40s is less than or equal to 2,625 carbs. I'm going to divide by 40 on both sides, and I do end up getting S is less than or equal to 65.6. I quickly noticed that I don't have any possible answer choices, meaning that I'm definitely on the right track, but it does say what is the greatest number of stir-fry meals he can purchase, meaning that this is going to be the greatest amount he can purchase. He can't exceed this amount of meals in order to do the condition. But remember, it has to be a whole meal. So it can't be 66 because this would exceed. So I have to round down, making 65 my best answer to question number 28. Problem number 29 states, if xy is a solution to the systems of equations above, what is one possible value of the product of x and y? And product, to recall, is when you're multiplying these together. So we need to figure out x times y will equal what? Now, whenever they're asking for systems of equations and really just a coordinate, right? A solution is a coordinate where the lines are going to intersect. I would normally solve for x and then y and then assume, right, that is the coordinate. But in this case, they want you to multiply them together. And because I have both of my equations, I'm generally going to just use substitution method. So what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to solve for y or solve for x and then plug it into the other. And when setting y equals to y, I get x minus 1 equals x squared minus 4x plus 3. I'm going to subtract an x on both sides and add a 1 on both sides, and this will end up giving me 0 equals x squared minus 5x plus 4. I'm now in a quadratic form. I can factor if possible, otherwise I may have to use the quadratic method. When I factor this, always remember, quick tip, I'm going to figure out two values that when multiplied together will give me a positive 4, but when added together will give me my middle term. So x times x will give me x squared, x times minus 4 will give me minus 4x, minus 1 times x will give me minus 1x. Those two things combined will end up giving me my minus 5x, and my minus 1 times my minus 4 will end up giving me a positive 4. So these do work. Now, I need to figure out what both of these could equal. So 0 equals x minus 1 in order to solve for my actual root, and 0 equals x minus 4. And I will end up getting x equals 1 and x equals positive 4. I now need to figure out which of these I basically want to plug in. I could plug in either into my expressions, and I'm going to choose purposely the smaller one to make this easier. So I have y equals 1 minus 1. Notice I'm plugging this in here for initially my x. So this is y equals x minus 1, which becomes y equals 1 minus 1. That then gives me 0. And when I plug this in or multiply it by anything, I will therefore end up getting 0. So 0 is definitely going to be a possible answer choice. And it says, what is one possible value of the product? I could do it the other way. I could do 4 minus 1 is 3, and then multiply those together, and 12 will most likely be my other answer. But I feel it's safe to say that anything multiplied by 0 is going to be 0. So I like the fact that given the product, I'm going to generally choose 0 as my answer for number 29. Okay, problem number 30. Here I see a lot of information given questions 30 and 31 refer to the following information: king crab supply, years, pounds, and millions. I'm immediately going to go to the question at hand to figure out what I need to decipher. It says, in 2006, the price of the king crab was $8 per pound at the beginning of the year and dropped to $7 per pound toward the end of the year. If 60% of the king crab supply was sold at the higher price per pound and the rest was sold at the lower price per pound, what was the total revenue generated in millions of dollars? And quick skimming here, this is in millions, right? Pounds. Millions of dollars from the sales of king crab in 2006. And we want to disregard the money sign when gridding in your answer. And remember, it is in millions of dollars in terms of the unit. Now, what we first want to do is understand that in 2006, if I'm going to my table here, 2006 is actually going to be equal to 180. And this is 180 total pounds or millions of pounds. I then want to take 60% of that amount because that's going to tell me if 60% of the king crab supply was sold at the higher price per pound, that's going to tell me exactly kind of how many pounds were sold at the higher price. So 0.6, which is 60%, multiplied by 180 gives me 108. Now I'm going to take my 180 minus 108, and that's going to give me 72. This is the amount of crab that was sold at the lower price. So 108 pounds were sold at the higher price, and the 72 is how much was sold at the lower price. I'm now going to plug these in. So I have $8 times 108, which is $8 per pound at the beginning of the year, and then dropped to $7 per pound toward the end of the year, right? The 60% is corresponding to the higher price. That's why we have this here, 60, 180, 108. So 8 times 108 plus 7 times 72 is going to equal my total revenue. When I plug these numbers in, 8 times 108 is $864. 7 times 72 is $504, and my overall answer is therefore going to be $1,368 because they want to know what the total revenue is in millions of pounds. Your units are already in millions of pounds, so this is actually your answer, making 1,368 your answer to question number 30. Problem number 31 states, in 2011, the price of the king crab was $17 per pound. In 2012, X million pounds of king crab were sold at $16 per pound. If the total money generated from sales each year was the same, what is the value of X? Your major tip is understanding that the overall revenue was the same despite the fact that they may have sold difference in pounds. You also want to notice here that there is no 2012, right? They're not telling you that on purpose because that's essentially what you're trying to figure out in this problem, right? What's X million pounds sold in 2012? So what you first want to do is identify what is 2011. In 2011, you sold, it looks as though 80 million pounds, or 80 total pounds, 80 million total pounds. Now, I want to multiply this by 17 first because 80 times 17 is what they sold for price per pound. That's 1,360. I now want to set this equal, right, because 2012 is X total pounds or X total millions of pounds, and I want to set this equal to 16X. This is because 16 times a certain amount of millions of pounds is going to give you the overall kind of revenue of what you would have done. I'm going to divide both sides by 16, and I'm going to get X equals 85. So 85 should be my answer for question number 31. Okay, so thanks for watching, and please remember to contact us at info@embracetutoring.com to set up any personalized private tutoring sessions you would like. Stay tuned for future videos, and best of luck with your studies. We definitely encourage you to visit our Instagram as well as TikTok pages if you have any questions along the way. Take care, guys. Best of luck with your studies.